very often that I get to address Anita Sarkeesian because most of her videos are over 30 minutes long. But for this one, I have to make an exception because it's only 6 minutes long, and to be fair, I just need to make a video response to her. I just have to. Eventually.
Well, handsome, what are we waiting for?
Season 2? This is fucking season 2? Like, how long? How long is it gonna take until season 3? What, by the end of 2020?
If you want to get to know a character, learn about their interests, goals, or desires, their butt is probably not going to give you that information.
Duh. I mean, it's not like these characters have a personality or anything.
It won't tell you much about who they are or what they're thinking or feeling at any given time. But video game designers often choose to put tremendous focus on the butts of certain characters while going to almost absurd lengths to avoid calling attention to the butts of others.
I wish they never played Metal Gear Solid. Any of them, as a matter of fact. And not to mention that even if that's true, you know, that we don't focus on men's butts as often as women's butts, most men tend to show off their abs. But to you, you know, showing off their abs is pretty much just, you know, a male power fantasy. Do it for a woman, and it's just some sort of sexual fantasy for men. Because, you know, it's not like men play the game for, you know, gameplay and not for some sexual pleasure.
These carefully crafted choices developers make about camera angles and clothing significantly impact how players think about and relate to these characters.
Because we relate to people by looking at their asses. Hey, Lara Croft, I like your ass. That's how I'm going to relate to you, with your ass.
Third-person games with female protagonists typically display those characters in a way that gives players a full-body view. A classic example of this is the original Tomb Raider games, which are presented from a third-person perspective wherein protagonist Lara Croft's entire body is visible. In these early Tomb Raider games, Lara's butt is typically right in the center of the screen, a camera orientation which, along with the sexualized clothing the designers choose to outfit her in,
shorts and a top is apparently sexualizing.
places a tremendous amount of emphasis on that part of her body.
I have no idea on how unbelievably difficult that game is. Like, it's already difficult enough with the controls. I have to worry about the platforms itself. One slip up and you die. I'm not going to be focusing on Lara Croft's ass. You know, I own this game. And, you know, that was like way back then, at least 10 years. At the very least. And I did not once even bother to look at Lara Croft's ass. Because I did not find Lara Croft's ass to be sexualizing. I know it is just a fake character.
In dozens of third-person games with playable female characters, the character's butt is brought to the forefront, and that's where the player's focus is directed. In Batman Arkham City, for instance, the player's gaze is drawn to Catwoman's behind, which is emphasized by her costume and exaggerated hip sway.
That's because Catwoman is extremely sexual. She's one of those type of people that, you know, uses her body as an advantage, which is why she moves her hips side to side. But to you, a woman should be more conservative with her clothing, you know, but it wouldn't be good enough. You know, she could be wearing a fucking nun costume and you would still find issue with that.
The ceremony! The Sisterhood will never forgive me if I am late.
Golden Axe Beast Rider makes extremely sure that we notice the protagonist's butt just before we take control and start playing.
It would have a point if they actually focus on the butt a little bit more and say, "Behold the mighty ass!"
And here, in Tomb Raider Underworld, to say that Lara's butt is being emphasized would be putting it mildly.
Incredible. The carvings are clearly similar to early Germanic design.
This is the whimsking suit we're talking about. And you're clearly just zooming into her ass on purpose, Anita Sarkeesian. Are you sure you're not a lesbian? Because I'm pretty goddamn sure you are. That's why you're doing it on purpose. And also, I played this game. You know, I have the original Tomb Raider trilogy right here on PlayStation 3. And that's just one of the costumes. Like, there's another one that's slightly less, you know, sexual that Anita could have picked.
But this is far older than the 5th century.
And this happens all too often.
You can't miss it.
Let's contrast the way that women's butts are emphasized with the sometimes absurd lengths taken to cover up or hide men's butts. If some of this footage looks jerky, that's because in some games, trying to get a glimpse of male characters' butts can feel a bit like wrestling with the camera. Common ways men's butts are hidden are by preventing the player from seeing below the character's waistline, or employing a more over-the-shoulder camera angle, which has the added benefit of keeping the character's butt safely out of the frame.
There are games out there that show men's butts, in both in gameplay and in cutscenes. Especially games like Metal Gear Solid and Mass Effect. But you wouldn't know that because you never play any of those games.
The most amusing solution is to simply include a cape, tunic, long coat, or very conveniently positioned piece of tattered fabric, which actively prevents the player from getting a clear or sustained look at the protagonist's butt.
But no one really gives a shit about someone's ass. Especially that of a woman.
For the purposes of this video, I tried to get a glimpse of Batman's rear end, but it's as if his cape is a high-tech piece of Wayne Industries equipment designed to cover up his butt at all costs.
But you would zoom in his crotch, which is almost as disturbing as looking at the man's ass. Hello?
I like to jokingly refer to this aspect of a male character's costume as the strategic butt covering. Of course, not all games with male protagonists keep the character's butt obscured or out of frame like these games do. The real issue is one of emphasis and definition. A significant portion of third-person games with female protagonists call attention to those characters' butts in a way that's meant to be sexually appealing to the presumed straight male player.
Because how dare we find women attractive?
In this regard, the way that women's bodies are depicted is significantly different from the way that men's bodies are depicted.
Little known fact, some women like to move their hips side to side when they're walking. Truth in real life, my lady.
There are a few examples of male protagonists who are wearing clothing that calls attention to their butts, but for the most part, men's butts, even when visible in the frame, are de-emphasized. Plenty of male heroes wear baggy pants or jeans, Uncharted's Nathan Drake among them, but nothing about his visual design or the jeans he's wearing encourages you to focus on his butt as some sort of defining aspect of his character.
Apparently that's what game designers are thinking, you know, just focus on the butt. You know, they don't give a shit about the gameplay, they're just gonna focus on the butt. Just look at her nice round butt. You know, they could have made it a lot more bigger. Like, we could just make her ass, like, really fucking big. But no. They like to leave it nice and firm. You know, just, you know, to the point where, like, it's normal. Like, it's just a normal butt. Because that's what people are into. You know, not big asses, but, like, normal butts.
By contrast, this emphasis on the butts of female characters communicates to players that this is what's important. This is what you should be paying attention to.
You get to apparently speak on behalf of every fucking gamer out there. Especially the heterosexual males who play the game because of gameplay and not because of someone's ass. Like I said before, the first time I played Tomb Raider, I did not give a flying fuck about Tomb Raider's ass. All I cared about is killing the animals and surviving.
It communicates that the character is a sexual object designed for players to look at and enjoy.
We all know where this is going, you know? Oh, how dare you show women's butts like this? Let's put them all in nun costumes.
And by explicitly encouraging you to ogle and objectify the character, the game is implicitly discouraging you from identifying directly with her.
Because that's how video games work. Apparently, we focus on someone's ass and forget about their personality. They just exist to, you know, can identify any character easily, regardless on how sexual they are. You know, it's easy to identify with Lara Croft because she's brave, stunning, strong. She goes on adventures. Unlike you, Anita, where you sit at home, eating nothing more than, I don't know, feminist pie. Like, if you really believe that gamers are expected to focus on women's asses, then maybe you should put that to the test. Start showing off your ass and see on how many people are going to like your video.
Strategic butt coverings and camera angles that obscure characters' rear ends are not an accident. They are a conscious decision made with great care, and the flip side of this is that designers often do the opposite when the protagonist is female. This difference in how male and female characters are framed often extends into the advertisements and box covers. Women's butts are front and center, and it's even become a depressing joke that their bodies are twisted and contorted in uncomfortable or unnatural ways so that their breasts and butt can be visible in the same shot.
Clearly they have not seen Kim Kardashian's ass then!
In contrast, when men are depicted from behind, there's great effort taken to cover up their rear end, often with other images or shadows. Of course, female characters can also be framed in ways that aren't objectifying. A good example of this is the episodic adventure game Life is Strange, in which the protagonist's butt isn't emphasized or centralized. The camera angles work in conjunction with the story to encourage us to identify with her as a human being.
Because, again, you know, apparently we just stare at a woman's butt, therefore we can never identify with that woman. You know, we can't, you know, see her backstory or anything. I mean, fucking hell, Anita. If this is how you see women in video games, then it's no fucking wonder why you hate them. You know, you hate video games so fucking much. And now you want video games to appeal to you because you're a narcissistic son of a bitch.
Sadly, the box art for the third-person action-adventure game Beyond Good and Evil emphasizes and sexualizes Jade's butt. The game itself, however, demonstrates that the Nathan Drake approach of outfitting a character in clothing that doesn't emphasize their butt, and not having the camera center it or focus on it, can work just as well to humanize female characters as it does for male characters.
Hey, isn't it funny that you're complaining about how video games are too violent, and yet here you are showing a violent clip about your favorite video game, Beyond Good and Evil? Fucking hell.
So to be clear, the solution here is not to simply show more butts of male characters. Equal opportunity butt display is definitely not the answer. Rather, the solution is to de-emphasize the rear ends of female characters so that players are encouraged not to ogle and objectify these women, but to identify and empathize with them as people.
Because, again, gamer focus on butts. Apparently we're that fucking sick, according to you.
This is not an impossible task, given that game designers do this all the time with their male characters. It's time they started consistently doing it with their female characters too.
Or maybe you should try creating your own video game. You have plenty of money to do so, and have all the time in the world. So, like, how many videos have you made so far that's even part of the series? Like, what, 8, 9? And how far are you into this series? Like, you're not even halfway there. Like, holy fucking shit. By the time that you're done with your entire series, we're all gonna be old men. Hey, backers of Anita Sarkeesian, I hope the wait was worth it! I am the Atheist Gamer. Peace the game out.